There we go. Somewhere in all these papers up here, right? So, have you ever thought about how weird Jewish ritual is? I mean, really, I was very directly faced with this thought, this Sukkot actually, when a friend and I went hiking in Sedona. We decided that just because we were out on the trail didn't mean we'd have to skip out on our Sukkot practices. So we brought a lulav and an etrog in the trunk of my car and carted them out to the vortex at Cathedral Rock and took turns shaking them in 6 directions under a very blue Sukkot sky. Sedona is probably the only place you can get away with that kind of ritual in public and not have everyone look at you sideways. There was another guy there with a drum. Everyone was very into it. Right? But it makes you wonder, how do we decide what rituals are maintained and which fall by the wayside of Jewish history? What gives a ritual meaning and staying power? This week's Torah portion, Naso, might provide us with some answers. It's the second portion of the book of Numbers and the longest one in our Torah cycle. And it seems to jump from counting to commands to counting and back again without rhyme or reason. But sandwiched between the lists of how many thousand adults over 30 lived among each Levite family and the inventory of how many golden plates each tribe brought to the dedication of the Mishkan, very exciting stuff, are 3 very distinct ritual practices. The first of these is the ritual known as sota. This one is an overwhelming read for many of us, not because of wordiness or breadth, but because of the deep injustice that emanates off the page as one encounters the laws of sota. Imagine a man, for whatever reason, accuses his wife of adultery. And the text makes clear to say here that he need not witness the infidelity, indeed that there need not be any infidelity at all, for a jealous husband to bring his wife forward and enact the sota ritual. The woman is brought before the priest in the tabernacle, and the priest rips her hair covering from her head. He mixes dirt from the floor into a vessel of water. And then he writes out a curse for the woman. If you are innocent, this water won't harm you. If you are guilty, then Yiten Adonai otach le'ala u'leshvua betoch amech. May Adonai make you a curse and an oath among your people, when the Eternal makes your thigh fall away and your belly swell. Then the priest dips the scroll into the water and forces the woman to drink. An ancient Near Eastern Salem witch trial. Zot Torat Haknaot, says the text. This is the law of jealousy. How painful it is to read a text like this from our sacred scroll. The woman of Sota is silenced, all but for the amen, amen, she must respond to her own curse. If her husband has falsely accused her, he is cleared from punishment. But she must always carry the trauma of her public trial. And worst of all, God's name is here invoked in a ritual of jealousy, of shame, and of mistrust between one human being and another. At first, it seems that the Torah offers no comfort after the reading of Sota. The laws of its rituals end, and we move on to the rules of becoming a Nazirite, like the biblical hero Samson, who abstained from drinking wine or cutting the hair from his head. So why do the rules of Nazir immediately follow the rules of Sota? Rashi, the great medieval rabbi and commentator, asks the same question. And his answer is that this ordering shows that a person who sees a woman go through sota will immediately take Nazirite vows against drinking wine. For drinking wine, Rashi tells us, leads to adultery. so be careful out there. He seems to see the vows of a Nazir as a corrective, asceticism as an attempt to avoid the potential dangers of a life lived in the material world. But if the Nazirite laws are a response to Sota, then in my eyes, they seem to be an overcorrection. For becoming Nazir doesn't simply mean abstaining from alcohol and forbidden food and keeping one's hair unshorn. The Nazirite must refrain not just from alcohol, but from vinegar and grape juice, and even grapes themselves. The vows of purity might save him or her from the potential for adultery or jealousy, from the danger of living out in the world among fallible human beings. But they also require that the Nazir stay so far from the taint of mortality that she or he cannot properly mourn a father or mother, brother or sister at their time of death. Kol yamei nizro kadosh hu l'Adonai. All the days of a person's Naziriteship, the text concludes, that person is holy unto Adonai. And yet, the holiness is isolating. Its strictures are harsh. And now God's name is invoked not for the purpose of shame, but for the purpose of deprivation. How easy it is for us to try to avoid the potential for becoming Sota by turning instead to the laws of Nazir. We see the ways other people might harm us, how we might be dragged in front of the altar, how our covering might be ripped from our heads, how life might force us to drink the waters of bitterness. So instead, we recede. We put up barriers for ourselves against pleasure or opportunity or the love of community, and we call that isolation holy. It's the pattern of thinking that makes us say, I won't apply for that job or audition for this choir. I might be rejected, and how bitter those waters will taste. Or every time we see a friend that we've wronged, instead of reaching out, we pull away, the fear that what we say won't be enough, and that we will be shamed by our actions. There must be something else, some balance to find between public humiliation and private isolation. Thankfully, the Torah offers us that balance. For as I said, there are 3 rituals offered in succession in Parshat Naso. The first, Sota, the second, Nazir, and immediately after the last word of the Nazirite laws, as Ariel knows and will read tomorrow morning, we see, tell Aaron and his children, this is how you will bless the children of Israel. Say to them, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Say to them, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Say to them, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. We all know these ancient and sacred words, the blessing we give or receive at a bris or a baby naming, as we become bat or bar mitzvah, under the chuppah at a wedding. And as painful as it is to read of the degradation of Sota or the strictness of the Nazir, those rituals have faded with time. They've become obsolete. It is the priestly benediction that stays with us. The ritual that models for us how to be of the community and not apart from it. That's the one that holds meaning. That's the one that stands the test of time. It shows us how to trust in the blessings of others, how to strive for human interaction free from jealousy and shame, from fear, from zealousness, and instead full of grace and light and peace. It shows us how to truly invoke God's name. With what other words could I end this Shabbat but those? May God bless you and protect you. May God shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may God lift up God's face to you and give you shalom, give you peace.